Well, welcome everyone. I'm here today with Katie Gorka. She served in the first Trump administration. She is the author of the book Next Gen Marxism. She also happens to be the chair of the Fairfax County GOP committee. We've had a chance to get to know each other a little bit over the past several years. And we are meeting today because of a thing that came to your attention related to the mail-in ballots in Fairfax. So I want to come around to that and talk about that in a moment. But first, to help get us oriented, we were just talking a minute ago about some changes that happened in the Virginia elections process that occurred in 2020. Give us kind of a big picture of what your perspective is on elections today.
Right. So I think it was really 2021 when a lot of the changes were implemented. 2021, we had Governor Ralph Northam, and the Democrats had a trifecta in Virginia, and they implemented a whole range of changes around elections because of COVID. So, key, 45 days of early voting for every election, and no excuse absentee ballots. So it used to be in Virginia, you had to be able to have one of about 13 different reasons for needing an absentee ballot, and they were quite limited. With COVID, breaks were off, anybody can get an absentee ballot, which is part of what brings us to where we are today. And one of the other changes was for the absentee ballot, they went from having an interior security envelope to an exterior envelope as well. So double envelopes, and that was done away with. And that's kind of how we landed here. Now they're saying it's because of the environment and it's because of the cost.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, the cost for an extra envelope relative to 45 days of early voting. So just FYI, by the time this year is over, Fairfax County, in one part or another, will have had 175 days of early voting.
Wow.
Because, no kidding.
Because of the earlier,
the
primary.
Every election has to have 45 days. Yep. Yeah. Primary, general election, special election in the 11th, and a special election in Braddock. And that's a huge expense for the taxpayer because you're paying election officers, you're paying staff, plus you're bringing in lots of volunteers. So it's just a huge burden on the county.
Now, of course, we don't mind a burden. As Americans, we understand that there is a burden of self-governance, which is the hard work that it takes to go into doing all the things it takes to have the people's voice heard, have our will carried out in government, and so forth. And however, we don't assume that just because things are more cumbersome, complicated, drawn out, that they actually serve that purpose better. I want to come back to election integrity as a bigger picture in a moment, but tell me what it was that caught your attention this week on the mail-in ballot.
Yeah. So a voter named Mark Moran is the one who first posted it. He's the one that noticed when he put his ballot into the envelope and he had, filled in the little ballot bubble for Jason Mayaris, the Republican candidate, and he put it in the envelope, and he realized that bubble lined up perfectly with a little punch hole in the envelope. So you could see, looking at the envelope,
how he voted.
Yeah.
Now, this is very interesting because when you are producing an envelope, a little hole on an envelope doesn't just happen.
Right.
So do we have any idea why that hole is there in the first place? Why anybody would even go to the trouble? Because somebody had to request a hole in all the envelopes. These are, to my understanding, 85,000 mail-in ballots have gone out, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any information on that?
Yes. Okay. So actually, and just today, the Fairfax County Office of Elections issued a new statement on this. They issued one on Monday. They've just issued another one. And they themselves say that hole is there because it's required by law. So this is supposed to be an aid to the visually impaired, but you don't need it when you only have a single envelope. It was an aid to the visually impaired to be able to distinguish between the internal envelope and the external envelope. Oh. So by doing away with the double envelopes, you don't need that hole there.
Okay. Is the hole in the same position that it has been in previous elections? Do we have any idea about that?
That's a great question, and I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this. And I think this is super interesting. The exact same problem is happening right now in California with Proposition 50.
Yeah, when I saw your article, I thought I had just several days prior seen that in California. And so And we know that there are many different ways to cheat in elections. I wrote the book on the 2020 election, and one of the places in that book I came across a gentleman who's, I believe, was unnamed, but he had come up with a way of cheating in elections. And he said they had been doing this on the Democrat side for years. And he said he was actually proud because he had come up with the idea with the method. So we know that this goes on. We don't know for sure that that's what's going on here, but these kind of things are highly suspicious, particularly when it lines up so well with the mark for Jason Miyares as the Republican candidate in a very
Yeah.
contentious race.
Yeah.
And we are going to put up on the screen here some of the texts that were sent by Jay Jones, his opponent. Really awful, awful things. But the fact that you have this sort of nonchalant attitude by the other candidates who have not asked him to step out of the race, who have not withdrawn their endorsement of him and so forth. And you would think, why are they so apparently unconcerned about this issue? We saw the same thing, if I recall back, and I'm not sure if it's the same thing going on, but in the lead up to the 2020 election, it seemed as though Joe Biden and Kamala Harris didn't really even care about campaigning, right?
Right.
And you thought, well, this is very odd behavior for some people who really should, this is a big high stakes election.
Yeah.
So anyway, we can put all those things as in the back of our evidence drawer and contemplate them.
But before you go on, I do want to say one thing. I was speaking to a journalist who sort of said, well, so what do you think is going to happen if you can see the votes? So what, right?
Yeah.
We have had multiple occasions now in Fairfax County over the years where mailings that we have sent out that are clearly marked Republican for one thing or another have gone astray for weeks in ways that other mail has not. I mean, we've had postcards, for example, delivered by as much as 5 weeks late, well after the election took place. So I think there are very real concerns about this.
Yes, all it takes is one well-placed employee at the post office or one well-placed employee at the election office to conveniently lose or delay or lay aside. Oops, I put those somewhere else, and they get delivered past the time that they'll be counted. And the reason this is such a big issue with mail-in balloting, now, previously, historically in the United States, we have had absentee balloting for special excuses. If you have a pre-planned trip, if you are military or whatever, you have a reason that you provide, and then you can get the opportunity to vote by mail. But this widespread vote by mail is not allowed by many countries. Many countries have outlawed it. Most countries, in fact, I think we're the only country that does it on a widespread basis. And so the potential for funny business with these kind of things is a big liability. And so even this week, even today, I think I saw President Trump talking about these issues with mail-in balloting, not particularly about Fairfax that I could hear, but also about the liabilities of electronic voting. So we have all these issues. What's your perspective on where we are in the state of Virginia?
One of the reasons we've ended up with this problem is because of changes that were implemented when the Democrats had a trifecta during COVID. And
in Virginia.
Yeah, in Virginia. Yes. And why have we not gone back to pre-COVID practices? Yeah. Why are we still doing everything around elections the same as they were done during COVID?
Right.
It's crazy.
We made these changes in light of the emergency in 2020, and we haven't gone back and reversed some of those things because they're no longer necessary. So what do we need to undo?
Well, and I would say the problems actually run much deeper. So you have one set of problems, which is all the changes that were put in place because of COVID. We need to undo those. You do not need 45 days of early voting.
Yeah.
You could have 10 days. If you really insist on early voting, 10 days.
Because the whole point is for people to if they can't get there on election day, they have an opportunity to go out and vote.
Exactly. Right? 10 days is enough. So that's one set of problems. But one of the things that happened in this country that I think is really fascinating, after the 2020 election, thousands of citizens got involved in the question of election integrity around the country to understand, because a lot of people felt that the election was stolen and they wanted to dig into, they just wanted to understand, right? Do the investigation themselves. And it's been incredible what people have turned up. Voting is complicated and there are 1,000 ways to mess with it. Here in Fairfax County, we've been blessed with an incredibly hardworking team that has really spent the last 5 years digging into are just trying to come to understand our electoral system here in Virginia and in Fairfax County. And it's unbelievable what they uncovered. I mean, really, it's it's shocking. You know, it's things like the fact that, I mean, and there are so many things, but for example, that now when you register, when you get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. And
is that true?
Yes.
All across Virginia?
Yes. And when you go to the DMV, you have to actually, if you're not going to get registered, you have to opt out. So that's why we ended up with that strange lawsuit last year where Jason Miyares got sued, because there were 6,500 people who had been registered to vote, even though they declared themselves not eligible to vote. And those were the people that he took off the voter rolls, and he was sued to put them back on. Even though they were self-declared. I'll give you another example. Virginia gives out lots of driver privilege cards, right? Because this makes sense. We have lots and lots of foreign diplomats, foreign individuals
who need to drive
and live here,
but they
legally.
don't need to vote.
Right, exactly. So
and they can't vote. It's
they
felony
get,
to vote.
They get a particular kind of driver's license. We also give privilege cards. We give a kind of ID to illegals. And just this past year, the Office of Elections removed the description in the instructions to election officers that allowed you to distinguish between the driver privilege card and a legitimate driver's license. So you can't really tell.
Well, we found in 2 counties, and I wrote 1 or 2 articles on this, that the instructions to election officers were, in 2 of our counties in Virginia at least, were directing that a full ballot could be given to people after they had been determined to have the driver privilege card. They could still give a full ballot. So we have these, and we know. So we had over 400 non-citizens removed from the voting rolls in Loudoun County, right next door to here, Fairfax, and a number of those were found to have voted in multiple previous elections. So this is not a theoretical problem. These are real problems because, and the reason it's a problem is that our system of self-governance, our right, your right and my right to govern our country, relies on us having the opportunity to influence who we elect. And if your vote is, the weight of it, the strength of it is reduced by somebody who has cast a vote illegally, and it is a felony for any non-citizen to vote in a U.S. federal election, even in California where they want to have them vote, it is still a federal crime to do that. And yet people are doing it, and they're not being prosecuted and so forth. So this is yet another thing we have had, and I don't want to draw our conversation long, but when I was knocking on doors last year, I came across a number of people who, they were on my list, and they hadn't lived in that home for, in one case, more than 20 years. The daughter had gotten married, she'd moved away, they'd requested multiple times to have her taken off the voting rolls. Now, in some of these places where now I don't think they do it here yet, hopefully not, if they would be to automatically send out paper ballots, that's just somebody could vote it and return it. So now we're coming up on the election here. So what should we tell our viewers to do to make sure that their vote does count? So obviously, if they're voting for Jason Miyares, which you should vote for Jason Miyares and Winsome Sears and John Reed and your Republican-endorsed school board candidates all across the board.
And here in Fairfax County, House of Delegate candidates.
And House of Delegates.
Sorry, that's statewide.
Yeah. So statewide. So that your vote doesn't get conveniently lost through the mail-in ballot. So if you have received a mail-in ballot, what do we recommend that people should do?
I personally think people should bring them in person.
Yeah.
But there is a way to put them in the envelope that your vote doesn't show. That's absolutely a viable option. Or people come in and vote in person and vote early.
Yeah.
I will say this: the I think the governor stepped in and got involved in this because he was also concerned about this. I do think that there is an allowance now if somebody submitted an absentee ballot and they're concerned because they did it before, they knew this was happening. First of all, you can go on the Fairfax County website and you can see whether your ballot has been received. If you have any doubts at all, you can go in and vote provisionally and they will confirm whether your ballot was received or not. So there have been some allowances made because of this situation.
Okay, good. There's more that we could talk about, and we should have further conversation in the future. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Vote.
Vote. Please go out and vote. If you're in Virginia, please go out and vote.
It is neck and neck. I mean,
Yeah.
it is so close. And I feel like, again, I feel like the mainstream media is trying to do to us what they did to us under with the Trump election. I don't trust the polling. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think some of the polling is really skewed to discourage us. I think people should not be discouraged. I think all of our Republican candidates have a very real shot at winning this election.
The day before yesterday, I was volunteering, handing out sample ballots in Loudoun County, and my estimation was about 2/3 of the voters coming in were voting for the Republican ticket.
Wow.
So yeah, don't be discouraged. Where you live, it may not always be the same, but your vote will make a difference. So I agree.
And to be clear, especially in Fairfax County, people should not be discouraged because they think that the Republican candidates will never win in Fairfax. They don't actually have to win in Fairfax, but they have to reach a certain threshold.
Yeah.
And so the Republican votes in Fairfax County are super important.
Yeah. And losing by less in counties like Fairfax and Loudoun County can tip the entire statewide election in some of these statewide races. Yeah. So good. Well, thank you, Katie.
Thanks.
The interview was conducted in the beautiful home of Katie and Sebastian Gorka. So very kind of them to have that interview in such a beautiful setting. So that is it. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe to this channel. It is a new channel. Kindness and Truth is a new channel, and we'd like to allow it to grow in terms of numbers, because the more you like and subscribe and let your friends know about it, the more we can spread the word and have a good conversation with a wider viewership. Thank you so much and have a great day. I appreciate you watching. Bye.